today on tonight's edition of How I Made My Millions. Not an ounce of sugar, but boy, are those profits sweet. Plus, still to come, from humble beginnings.
When I was 11 and a half years old, we didn't have a dollar to our name.
To running a company rolling in dough. It's all in How the Cookie Crumbles. Tonight's edition of How I Made My Millions is just ahead as Business Nation continues. Monthly feature, How I Made My Millions. Once again, David Faber.
If you've ever tried giving up cookies as part of a diet, you know how hard that can be. Well, the man you're about to meet shares your pain. And now he shares his pleasure in tonight's edition of How I Made My Millions. In the southwestern town of Deming, New Mexico, Joseph Semprevivo came from humble beginnings.
My parents didn't have any money. When I was 11 and a half years old, we didn't have a dollar to our name. We lost our home, didn't have enough money for food. My mom literally sacrificed from eating and to give us food on the table.
To add to his sacrifice, at age 9, Joseph learned he had diabetes. Sugar was off limits.
I went without eating any types of sweet for 3 years, not having anything sweet and satiating to have, and it was difficult.
3 long years without so much as a cookie, until his parents began to experiment in their kitchen.
So my parents invented the very first sugar-free cookie for me to eat. And I just loved it. And I said, you know what, Mom, Dad, I want to share this with everybody else in the market. So we put them in the bags and launched our company.
Using every dime they had, in 1986, they started what today is nothing short of a sensation by introducing the first diabetic-friendly cookie on the market. At the time, it was far from a sure thing, because back then, sugar-free was shorthand for tastes bad.
It was pretty challenging in the beginning to go and explain to a buyer at a store, we're making sugar-free cookies. You know, can you please take them? A lot of people didn't know what a diabetic was. But then when they opened the bags up and they tried the cookies and they heard the price points, they were really impressed. And they said, we're going to give these a shot. So every weekend when my friends were all playing and having a good time, I was at the grocery stores with my mom and my dad, and we were actually doing demos in the stores to introduce people to our brand.
Joseph originally intended the cookies only for his fellow diabetics. But before long, another crowd began to take notice of his little gems.
We realized that almost anybody could eat our cookie. It's not just for diabetics. It's for anybody who wants a great-tasting American-made product.
He knew he was onto something when it caught on with people simply watching their weight. Joseph's cookies had been discovered.
I got an award from President Bush, and it was in the Rose Garden, and it was called the American Success Award. That was the one major point in my life where I look back and saying, wow, we finally made it.
He made it all right. This teenage cookie king rolled out his first million by the time he was 20. Over the years, the dough kept rising. And then, the sweetest coincidence of all.
Almost 5 years ago, a broker from QVC saw our cookies in a grocery store and bought them and was eating these cookies and loved them and called me up and said, would you like an opportunity to be on QVC?
In his first day on the air, Joseph sold 3.6 million bags of cookies.
Just a reminder, we have sold out of Joseph's cookies. Thank you so much for your calls there.
Today, over 12 million a day, shake and bake on the factory line. Talk about a fortune cookie. Joseph's is doing $100 million a year in sales.
What's maximum growth rate are you looking at?
North of 200%.
So 60 to 200% growth annual rate?
One simple idea, born of a sweet tooth and his medical condition, has made Joseph Semprevivo a millionaire many times over.
It brings a lot of happiness to me today to know that my parents made this for love for me and I get to share it with everybody else. Not only in the U.S. now, but all across the world.
Semprevivo isn't just selling to an American audience. His cookies are sold in 150,000 stores in more than 50 countries. Numbers that will grow in just a few months when he expands to China and India. We'll be right back.